How's it going, everyone? It's Sam. This is the week. This is the week that everyone has seemed to be waiting for recently. Tom Lee actually just went on CNBC and talked about the election, talked about what he's going to do depending on who becomes president, and talked about Warren Buffett's massive stockpile of cash that just was announced. Now, if you want to trade crypto, there's a link underneath the video to Margex where you can place longs, you can short the market, you can do whatever you want. You can trade this market on leverage. There's no KYC, and you don't need a VPN. We've been setting higher lows each month at the beginning of the month, like in the first week, and higher highs later in the month. So if you want to trade this market, there's a link to this underneath the video. Let's get into the clip, and I do want to thank Roto for sponsoring this video, but we'll get to them later.
Following last week's inflation and jobs data, it's an interesting time to get some perspective from our next guest, Tom Lee. It says be prepared for volatility. Tom is managing partner and head of research at Fundstrat Global Advisors, as well as a CNBC contributor. Would you say, towards the last time you were on, you talked about the Trump trade being pretty strong. A lot of things turned back, reversed. DJT reversed. Bitcoin didn't hold, didn't move into the mid-70s, got into the low 70s. I don't know whether the banks and other Trump trades changed, and all the betting markets certainly moderated late last week, came back a little bit. Do you have a change in your opinion on the election now?
Well, it does seem like over the last 4 or 5 days, the election really narrowed when you look at betting markets or the polls. And I know a lot of people don't necessarily trust polls, but I think the quality and the adjustments to the polls have made them more accurate. So I think it is really a toss-up, and it's going to be a very close election. And something our clients are preparing for, because we did a survey last week, 76% don't think we'll have a winner declared election night. And 43% roughly expected 1 week after. So I think markets are kind of bracing for this period of uncertainty. I think that's why many of the trades have reversed.
We've also heard about some of the trading houses that are not going to be putting any software updates in this week, even some people who want to be here rather than overseas to make sure they're closer on the ground to see what happens too.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a week where there's going to be a lot of worry. One thing I was thinking about over the weekend, though, is I think the market's fear of uncertainty will peak before, it's very likely it peaks before the election outcome's actually decided.
These signals that we've been looking at, one of the things, I don't know if you read about it, and I think we talked about it maybe during commercial break last week, one of the things that's happened in the polls is the view that there's a lot more women going to vote than before. But that these signals, whether it be Bitcoin or whether it be DJT stock or whether it be the betting markets, may also all be off, if this is true, on the assumption that actually there is a very small percentage of the people in the betting markets who are women, for example. There's a very small percentage of people who are women who actually trade in Bitcoin, not who own Bitcoin, but who trade in Bitcoin. Very small group of women who are trading in DJT stock. What do you think of that?
I think there's some credence to that, just because we know, like, when you look at the Iowa polls, it was really the senior women voters that changed a lot. And you're right, these markets can be narrow, and they're very responsive to changes in liquidity. And I think it's a very tight race. I mean, it's going to be very close. I think anyone who thinks that they know who's going to win is really playing with fate, because I think it's a very tight race.
Yeah.
It's interesting from when polls close too, because we've got, I mean, there's a couple here, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia are all East Coast. So, if you have some definitive answers, they also, supposedly Virginia and New Hampshire are closer than people in the Harris camp would like. So there could be surprises early on.
Just wonder how long it takes when you have so many more people who have voted early or mail-in votes too. Those take longer to tally. So I mean, you might just by default be
like last time.
Yeah. I actually voted last week, and I actually had to wait for a lot of people. I mean, turnout is really what's going to swing this election.
So we got past some of Tom Lee's thoughts on the election, and next they ask him, okay, what would you do then right now? Like, Are you just going to sit out if a certain president gets voted in? Are you going to keep on investing? What do you think about Warren Buffett's massive stockpile of cash that just got announced over the weekend? But first, a word from today's show sponsor. Okay, now I have a really exciting announcement. I've talked about Roto for years, and now they're going to be the first GambleFi project to double list on Mexi and Bitmart. GambleFi Pioneer is about to get exposure to 40 million plus users globally. And this is taking place on November 6th. Now, if you don't know what Roto is, it's GambleFi infrastructure. It's a place where casino ownership is decentralized. This is open source and everyone can build on-chain casino games. This is really cool because instead of fighting the house, you can actually become the house. And the house always wins, it seems. Keep in mind, they're going to have a ton of on-chain games based on Roto. They're also going to have a utility boost, a buyback and burn. They're going to have integrations of new tokens. They're going to have open bankroll to become the house. This is going to be really exciting, and I'm really excited to see what Roto does. They've been a longtime partner of the channel, and I'm really excited to see what happens next. I'm going to leave links to them underneath the video to learn more.
Other than the election, because the elections, that's sort of what you hear about Wall Street. Elections don't really matter anyway. So if it is gridlock, which we don't know, but more likely, I think the odds are on that too. So you're still bullish.
Yeah, I'm bullish only in the sense that election uncertainty has caused people to de-risk and cash to sit on the sidelines, but the fundamentals have been good. Earnings season's been very good. The Fed is dovish, and I don't think it's going to matter who ends up in the White House. Even if it's split Congress or a sweep, I think markets do pretty well either way. So it sets up for a really good rally into year-end, but when it starts in November is just what we don't know.
No. So when you look at we were talking about what Buffett's thinking with Apple or what he's thinking with bank. I mean, that you take Apple and a leading financial, and that covers a pretty big range of the markets. And Andrew thinks he's building an arc. Could you really? That wouldn't work. There's too many species to bring on there with him.
I'm just saying he's building a cash arc.
Cash arc.
An arc out of cash or something. Or is that what he's doing? He may be doing something else. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I know part of it is he's anticipating capital gains taxes could change, so he's taking those gains now. And he's not necessarily having a big cost of money because he's earning 5%. But next year, the cost of money is going to drop, so he'll have some pressure to deploy it.
Now, of course, Tom Lee's talking about Berkshire's massive stockpile of cash that got announced over the weekend. Now they have about $325 billion, which is 35% of their market cap. And a lot of people are wondering why this is. Keep in mind that they do have some businesses that require more cash. They always keep around, for the last 5 or 10 years, they've kept around 100 to 150 billion in cash. But recently they have been, I'd say that they have been stocking up a little bit more, obviously during COVID when they saw some stimulus come in. Looks like they dumped some money into the market when there were cheap prices, but now obviously they have been storing up cash a little bit more. Now, I do think it's important to listen to Tom Lee at the end there. No matter what, he's going to still be investing. Whoever the president is, the market's still going to do well, right? Most likely. So think long term, right? This is an exciting week. This is a big week for markets. Everyone's going to be watching, but try not to get too down or too excited either, I guess. Try not to get too emotional in general. As you can see, Bitcoin has been doing really well, setting higher lows and higher highs. Also, it's dumped towards the beginning of each month and then rallied the rest of the month. So if you want to trade, there is this link to Margex underneath the video where maybe you want to long the market tomorrow because you hear a certain person's in the lead, or maybe you want to short the market because you think that the market's going to fall down because of who's in the lead. Who knows? But there is a link to Margex underneath the video. It is a bit quiet right now. The market is quiet. Of course, there's a little bit of volatility with Bitcoin over the weekend, but honestly, not as much as I would have expected. There's just not a lot of news to start the week, but of course, we do have the Fed meeting later this week. We do have the elections. Everyone is going to have a lot of thoughts, I'm sure, on the elections and the results and what this means for the economy, for the stock market, for crypto on Tuesday night, Wednesday. So be ready. have your tap dancing shoes on. I think it's going to be an exciting week. And keep in mind, we do have a lot of earnings this week as well. We don't have many of the major tech companies because a lot of them announced last week, but we do have some of the more mid-sized companies like Palantir, right? Large company, but not close to Apple or Berkshire or anything like that. So be on the lookout for those earnings later this week. Thank you so much for watching this. Let me know your thoughts. Again, there are links to Roto underneath the video as well. I'll see you all in the next one.